get an approval of the agenda, which will include an executive session to talk about purchase of a property and personnel contractual matter. Can I get a motion?
Could I add another personnel matter to the executive session when we start to talk about other things?
Okay, all right, now how do we need to verbally just blanket personnel? Or do we need to know specifics about that in order to put it in our executive
No,
session?
it's personnel, you can do that.
Just do personnel, okay. All right, and a second personnel matter. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
The second?
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of October 11th. Can I get a motion?
I made the motion.
Second?
Sorry.
All those in favor? I'm going to be brief with my report. We've got a long meeting, we've got a number of people that are going to address us. So, one, I mentioned last week that I thought we were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with COVID, and unless something dramatic happens, I mean, we're averaging 0 to 1 cases a day. So I think Dillon County's in a good place. I think the state of South Carolina's in a pretty good place. I'm not sure. The only caveat to that is England has kind of had an outbreak, and I'm not sure what that's about. We've had another meeting with downtown development, and those are pretty energetic meetings. I think we're coming along with the idea that if you've got a building down there and it's not ready for occupancy, expect that you're going to get some penalties, fines. On the other side of that is we're working on a situation where we're going to financially help the people that want to improve their property. That will be, and we've walked through this. I know we've been burned before, but we've walked through this, and I think we're doing it in a way where we won't get burned, we'll get product, and if that product doesn't perform, we'll get real estate. So I think we're being very responsible about the way we're handling that. Again, I mentioned about the housing last time, about we need neighborhoods, we need to build neighborhoods, and I'm actively trying to put together the developers that I understand are interested in Dillon and the people with the property. So that being said, Glenn?
If I can go back to one of your comments just then, Dr. Wallace, is you said that y'all making some good headway. Are you talking about any stipulations being put in place as far as?
Absolutely. We're looking at.
I was going to cover that in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's you're talking about the Main Street stuff.
You're talking about the payment for
Main Street
investments. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to cover that. Should find on your table, I left you 2 pieces of paper. One I had emailed y'all probably 3 weeks ago, problems with flooding. This quick survey you can do through the South Carolina Office of Resilience. I left it in some chairs tonight for folks, and we flooded this with our Facebook page. It's a good way for people to go online to mark on a map where they've seen flooding in their area. And tonight, we have Kevin Crick here with Dave Companies and talk about our flooding that we've had and what we can do to do some things. But there may be some areas that we missed. But also, by doing this gives the state an idea of the issues not only that we have, but statewide. And the more there's issues, there may be more money out there for us to get to do this kind of stuff. So if you have it, pass that along to folks that you know and let them know about it. Again, it takes all of 10 minutes to put the information in. It's very simple. Also, I laid on your desk a plan that I've come up with for the American Rescue money that we've received so far, which we received back at the end of September, which was $1,570,946.62. Between now and April 30th, 2022, we've got to have a plan submitted to the feds, how we're going to spend this money. I came up with 4 things. There can be more. It can be changed, but it's time to start talking about these things. Because April 30th, 2022 will be here before you know it. So one of the things, the city, from March 17th, 2020, which was a Tuesday, it's pretty much when we started shutting things down or not having people come into the office as much, through the end of June of this year. I just picked the end of June of this year because it was the end of our budget year. And it can go out as far as you want it to, I guess. Estimated cost would be roughly $225,000 of the $1.5 million. Then you have on line 2 economic development, downtown grants and loans upwards to $150,000. Renovation of the first bank building for the police department, $250,000. Water meter upgrades, $445,946.62. And then match for stormwater grants up to $500,000. That's just what I threw out for you to have an idea where we need to start.
Can we renovate that building for $250,000?
I think downstairs you can. I don't believe it will cost us that much downstairs.
The roof's good.
Roof's good.
How is the air conditioning?
AC units working fine as of now. Don't know if we have any issues. I don't remember the age of that. Do you?
Do we got a plan going forward on what we're gonna renovate?
Well, downstairs is simple. We've got to add some walls to give space for officers to be separate and have their own little space. Which the most of this 250 would be things that we would do upstairs in the building.
Elevator.
Elevator's one, which costs somewhere around $75,000-$80,000 to put that in. And then upstairs, I won't say it's gutted per se. There are walls, isn't it?
There are walls and what, I think most of it's going to be cosmetic. I mean, it's got a lot to do, but it's more cosmetic.
But are we getting bids or anything?
I haven't done, no, we haven't done any of that yet.
$250,000, you just think it's gonna cost that?
And it could cost more.
Yeah, I'm
Sure, it could cost more. Very well could. But no, we have not got any bids, have not done any of that yet. Like I said, downstairs, I don't think the cost is gonna be that much because I believe we can do petitions more so than walls. Give cubicles for officers. There may be some walls, 1 or 2 walls we have to put in to make a lobby area and that kind of thing, but you know, I think 250 would be a start at least at the bottom on the first floor. And then second floor, money that we get next year, we may can use the same kind of money there to do something upstairs as well. But this is just a not a recommendation, but a guide to start to have a discussion. Water meters upgrade, we're trying to get to the point where we're not actually manually reading water meters. We've probably got roughly 3,100 meters that we have to read monthly. Of those right now, we probably are manually reading over 2,000 of those. So maybe 1/3 are now able to go by and call what we call touch read. And the cost
Still
of-
gotta open the door?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And what we need to do is the meters that we have now, we're changing out some, but the software and the cost of the apparatus to actually go around touching meters is the biggest cost. But, you know, we're looking at $445,000 to do that, and hopefully get to the point where you really don't have anybody going out reading. It's then called radio read. You can just, it can come straight into the office and look at it on a daily basis, what everybody's meters are doing. But that would be another one. And then stormwater, you know, that got in there 500,000 to have us some money set aside for match programs. There have been, I think I told you last month, we applied for one grant for about $3 million, which is 100% money, where we don't have to have a match. We won't know anything on that one until February. We applied for one last week. And Kevin, tell me if I'm wrong, was that a 20% match, or you remember? 25% match, which was, what was the total of that one? 1.5? Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
So you have 25% of 1.5, which pretty much kind of eats up what we got there. And then we have some other ones that we'll do down the road, but wanted to give you some idea of how we could spend that money. You know, there's some things that we cannot do that I talked about before. You cannot use money towards pensions, you cannot use money towards debt service, you cannot use money to reduce taxes. Those are the three things that we know we cannot do. So it's kind of money sitting there to do things that we normally wouldn't be able to afford to do. But we need to have some kind of plan submitted by no later than April 30th, 2022.
Any of y'all have any suggestions of other ways we could use the money?
Well, are we gonna talk about the premium pay now?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can. We can.
You had originally said that you wanted to do $2,000 across the board to the employees. I want to know how you came up with $1 an hour, and how does it equivalent to each individual who's working? Because you're gonna have a variance there, it seems like, 1,500, 1,800, and
You
so
are.
forth.
Depending on, at first I talked about, you know, giving a flat fee or a flat amount across the board. Then I got to thinking about, we have people who work 40-hour weeks, we have people who work 42-hour weeks, we have people who work 56-hour weeks. Then we have people who work part-time, it could be 5 hours a week or 28 hours a week. Giving everybody the same amount of money, to me, wouldn't be equal. So then talking to different people throughout our region, what each one has done different. Some have done a flat fee for everybody. Some have put a dollar figure per hour that they actually worked during a time period. And right now, my time period that I picked, as I said earlier, was March 17, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, which is 66 or 67 weeks. So if you work, however many hours you work during those 67 weeks, you get $1 for each hour that you work.
So give me, what I'm trying to get you to tell me is, I know you've looked at it, full-time department heads versus an hourly worker who works for a
Get the same
department.
thing, $1 per hour.
But what's it equivalent to? What, is a department head getting $1,800 and the hourly worker's getting $1,000?
Depending on how many hours they work.
Exact same amount?
Yeah, I mean,
Dollar an hour.
$1 per hour.
So-
If you were on vacation, you don't get paid.
From
for
a
that time.
percentage
If you were
standpoint.
sick,
Yeah.
you don't get paid. You know, if you use sick time, you didn't get paid.
Right.
It's actual hours worked.
Right, I understand.
I mean,
From a percentage standpoint, it actually, the hourly wage earner is gonna get a higher percent hit. I mean, they're gonna get more money relative to their, I mean, if you got someone making $10 an hour, they're making, and I'm just using that as a number, they're making, what, $22,000 a year. Well, they're gonna get a $2,000, $2,200 check. Well, the other people might get a $2,200 check also, but they're making $60,000 or whatever they're making.
That's what I'm moving to.
So what I'm saying is the guy, he's getting a 10%, increase in his pay, where the other guy's getting, maybe a 3%.
I think, I'm trying to figure out where John is going. A department head, how many hours a week do they average working, I reckon, because they're on, is that kind of where you go?
Well, I think it's like 2,040 hours per year, correct?
2,040.
40-hour work week is 28.
28.
28
Yeah.
for 40 hours a week, for 52 weeks. That is correct.
Okay.
Police department is 42 hours a week. Theirs is 21.98 or something like that. And then fire department are 56 hours. Theirs is whatever that is times 30 times 52, which could be over, I think, over 3,000 hours a year.
Well, how would you get money to the volunteers, fire department?
Base that off of number of calls they had for 2 hours a call during that time.
But I think personally, that's a disservice to the first responders and the fire department, because during the pandemic, we needed them more than anything. And, you know, I understand what you're doing, but I would like to go back to the original proposal that you had. And, you know, if it's $2,000 and, you know, everybody across the board gets the same. Because I know you're gonna have a little bit of fluctuation.
Okay,
And
what
then-
what about part-time people?
Well, you know, we talked about that too, and what was your original proposal for that?
I think 750.
$750.
Yeah, I
And I
believe-
think we need to stick with that.
I have no, I'm
But
throwing you
probably
out.
that
recommendation.
750 what?
750.
Just a flat
The
750.
thing with that though is you've got some people that work 4 hours a week, part-time, you got some people work as high as 38 hours a week.
Well, you know, that's not.
And then,
That's not in our control. You know, basically, I look at the full-time.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
now, I
trying-
also have people who have been here 66 weeks versus somebody that's been here 28 weeks. Should the person
Right.
28 weeks get the same thing as the person that gets 66 weeks?
No, they get 28 weeks worth
Whatever
of
the
salary.
proration of it is?
Yeah. You don't pay them for the 60.
Y'all-
They
y'all
weren't
tell
here.
me.
I mean, I just think.
They weren't here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That was the reason I did
Yeah.
a dollar per hour.
I just don't see how you can pay it, give a bonus to a department head the same as you can give an hourly person. I really don't. I think an hourly person who gets out there and grinds it out, they deserve something, you know, more than,
But now, taking
What
it
the
for all of
department head
them,
would give.
most of my department heads do too now.
well, your department heads are making really good money.
They are.
These people out here are working their tails off and making pennies on the dollar.
I mean, I'm just giving you recommendations. However y'all want to do it's fine. Doesn't, you know, one way or the other.
Well, let me say this
But
about
what
it.
you're gonna do is if they worked their 2,200 hours, they would have got $2,200. So now we're going back and only giving them 2,000.
No, because I was gonna go a little further in the conversation, but I mean, I understand y'all want to have input, so I'm gonna let you have your input.
Let me say this about department heads. If you got a problem and they're on their way to a football game, and you call them with a problem, they respond to that problem. You know, they personally may not be there, but, you know, they're constantly on call. They're never off. Do you ever think about that?
Well, I do, Dr. Wallace, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I think we're compensating them real well for the position they're in versus a man who's driving the garbage truck making $13, $14 an hour versus a sergeant on your police department that makes $16 an hour. I mean, that's just the way I feel.
Well,
And I just think they deserve, you know, we got this money, ARP money is money that we wouldn't even anticipate.
I understand.
So that's why, you know, I want to kind of look more towards the hourly person who, and the volunteers and everybody, you know.
But now,
Because,
it's based on, if I remember, and I didn't bring it with me, based on my last discussion about it, that we're going now from estimated 225,000 to 180,000.
I mean, I see you 225, I just, if you could give me more information on how you're getting that and break it down.
How much, I
You know,
don't understand what more.
Well, you saying now we're going to 180,000?
That would be based on 2,000 per employee, and the
Well, I don't want to take
750.
anything away from, you know, anybody.
Mhm.
But I want to, I mean, I can't give you a vote either or if I can't see the breakdown of how you get. I understand the hours and the dollar extra on the hour versus, you know, each individual what they get. But if you do it flat across the board, you do 2,000 for the department heads, you do $2,500 for the hourly people, then it's cut and dry.
But my thing is, that, I see where you're coming from, but some of the department heads is out there with them while they working. They ain't just out there direct, they out there doing the same work they doing. That's my deal about it.
I mean, and I understand that, I'm just saying, they're getting compensated really well versus the man who's making the $14, $15, $16 an hour.
But I can see that too.
You know, that's where I'm going with
I
it.
got you, I understand. Now, that's on the agenda under new business, so we can talk about it more there, if that's okay.
It's fine.
And we'll go ahead and finish with what I've got here, but, I mean, it's somewhere to start, agreed. Downtown stabilization, as Dr. Wallace had brought up earlier, which is also on the economic development side for downtown grants and loans. I had met with 3 of the 4 local banks last week, based on some conversation we had with downtown committee master plan meeting earlier last week. I met with the 3 banks here Thursday or Friday of last week. Proposed to them, would they be open to a partnership with the city in that if there was money for the city to have, to give out to business owners, property owners to stabilize their buildings, would the banks be interested in being part of that procedure? And the procedure would be, the city would have X number of dollars to go towards a loan that a property owner would take out with whatever the 3 banks here in town that he wanted or she wanted to. The city would guarantee up to 40% of that loan, of a maximum loan of $75,000, that we would guarantee 40% and or $30,000. Anything over that, the property owner would owe to the bank whatever that loan amount would be. The idea was what would be done would be under a construction loan, and I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with construction loan. I've never done one, but that was one of the other reasons I met with the banks, is that during the construction loan process, the borrower pays no principal during that time period. They only pay interest on whatever money they use during the construction process. The first 2 months.
Any accrued interest?
Yes.
Yeah.
In the first 2 months, they may have not have used any money, so they would owe nothing. The property owner would borrow from the bank, whatever that amount would be. The bank would vet them. When it's time to pay the contractor for the work to be done, the bank handles that. They go in and they check off what they should or should not have done to agree to pay them. Once that is done and the payment to the contractor is complete and the work's been complete, and we'll just use $75,000 was the loan amount, the city would pay up to 40% of that loan amount, write a check to the bank for $30,000. Property owner would then owe $45,000 to the bank, however they work that out. The 3 banks were interested. However, there's going to be some time where the attorneys would have to sit down to draw up some paperwork. The only caveat is, if during that time period they start paying the loan back, the property owner, and defaults, the bank gets the building, the city would not get the building.
Okay, I thought that there wasn't an opportunity for joint ownership.
Would be an opportunity for us, but it would be the opportunity of the bank. Now, as the bank said, well, at least you would have a building that the bank owns that is up to snuff.
Right.
And maybe can turn around and sell it, at a cheap rate, because at that point, if they borrowed 75, we paid 30, they owed 45, they would sell it for what's owed to them, basically.
I would, if that's the scenario, I would say that we might want to reduce the percentage of the loan that we want. Because, our end game is not to own buildings, but our end game is to make sure that people are in those buildings. And that was another thing, that we'd have to pay, an amount, to cover the interest anyway, or a payment. We haven't figured out that out. But make that payment as long as it was empty. Once it was occupied, they no longer pay their side to us. Isn't that how we?
It'd be similar to that,
Yeah.
but in this case, talking to the banks,
It's a loan that turns into a grant.
Bingo.
If you can put someone in that spot. Yeah.
so, again, it was just a conversation to see if they would be interested,
Yeah.
the three banks.
How many would the city do? I mean, if it's up to 30,000?
Well, I put there 150, so that's 5.
So 5, and,
That'd be
I mean,
5.
we're gonna run out of money then, we
Yeah.
ain't gonna be able to help them anymore.
Yeah, and then you would have another opportunity this time next year. I mean, your money's gonna run out 2026 anyway.
Right, so I'm saying you get 2 portions of the APR money,
Yeah.
ARP money.
Yeah.
So you saying you're gonna do up to 5 each year, up to $150,000?
Could, I mean, again, the
Get 10
number,
buildings down there.
Yeah.
If you get 10 Oneidas of 10 buildings down there that are functional, I think the rest of them will take off.
But do you really think you can do anything with a building for $75,000?
Right.
You think you can really
I have-
renovate them buildings down there? I don't know.
I don't need, I don't know.
I know you can,
Yeah.
but, it's what we can do, you know?
Well, let me ask you a good question. If we retain no equity in the building after the process is done, if they default on the loan.
That's
Yeah,
why I
the
thought
bank
maybe
would-
our exposure should be less, you know?
The bank
as
would
opposed to
own it at that
40%.
And I agree with Dr. Wallace on that.
And again, I just threw a number down.
We could always take out a second mortgage on it, so if the bank did foreclose and went to sell at the courthouse steps, if it brought over the amount of their mortgage,
Yeah.
we might be
We
entitled.
might be
to-
maintaining equity.
And
in that
I know
portion.
years ago we did that, because through the years I've come across old mortgages to the city that we had to go, or I think it was the county that did it, and we've had to go back and satisfy them because they just never got off the record.
Well,
But
we can do that. I'm in
That might
agreement
give
with
us
a
a-
higher amount.
a little
If
more
we can maintain
protection.
our equity in the building. Wouldn't you agree with that, Dr. Wallace?
Yeah, but that's, the way we maintain equity in the building is on the back end, is what you're saying.
Well, gives us a little bit of chance at
Yeah.
it. There's no guarantee because if it
Right.
goes, if their loan's 50,000, it sells for 45, we're not getting anything. But if their loan's 50 and it sells for 60, at least we
Yeah.
get the 10 back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you handle multiple building owners downtown, or multiple business owners? They only get one and that's it? for the whole
That's
building?
between them and the bank. We wouldn't be involved, we're just there to guarantee a portion of that loan, I guess. The bank would vet anybody that wants a loan.
Now, my understanding is, and what he just mentioned, if you've got one owner that owns 6 buildings, and it's a sole proprietor. Now, if he had the 6 buildings and he set up a corporation for every building, then he could get it done separately on all 6.
Well, again, that would be
Up to the
Because
bank.
that's a
up to the
separate
bank, how
entity.
much liability they want to go with
Yeah.
someone that owns that many buildings.
So that's something they need to think about, is it's not a stopgap because you own 6 buildings and you're a sole proprietor.
If this worked, the question was, how are they gonna be selected from the city? And I said, the city wouldn't select anything. We would want them, that's where we want the bank in here.
Bank needs to do that.
They do all the vetting,
Right.
and,
That's a good.
you may go in to it and get an interest rate, I'm just throwing out a number, 3%. I may go in and it may be 4%. And then we're not telling you which one of the 3 banks to go to if all 3 agree to do this. We're telling you those 3 banks will talk to you, and they're part of this program.
But Johnny made a good point with that. I mean, there is a way, Johnny, for multiple buildings for one owner
Yep.
to get an upgrade to multiple
Maybe
buildings.
we ought
the
to
other
put
thing-
it where
But
there's
his
a
Indy
limit.
classification is the key
No
to it.
one, no
He's
one
got to be
person
smart
can
about
get
it.
more than 1 or 2 or 3.
Well, my other thing is, if I make sense here, it's like flipping a house. You say you go in there and you buy the building for $25,000. You go and you get the loan for $75,000. The city pays you $30,000. They flip it and they make $100,000 off of it. We want to be in that kind of business, or are we gonna put a stipulation on that
You could, they have to own it for a certain period of time.
In order for it to be a
Yeah.
grant.
Right.
And keep it occupied.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
mentioned
Keep it
5
occupied.
years the last time
I
we
mean, you
met.
could do
I
that,
met with.
whatever the, 4 years, 5 years. And I didn't come up with this idea. I kind of stole it from the city of Brunswick, Georgia. I found where they were doing something similar to that. And if I remember correctly, there were stipulations, that they either had to be occupied or owned for a lengthy period of time. Because no, I'm not against anybody making money, but that's not what we're trying to do. But again, all this stipulates again to each bank's attorneys
Yeah.
and their boards or whatever to come to an
You think
agreement.
we'll have an answer next week?
It may be 2 months, before we can do anything, but I wanted to come back to you guys and say, I've talked to them, and that would be First Citizens, First Bank, and Anderson's. Wells Fargo didn't respond. And I met with all three of them at one time, so we all were talking off the same page. So if that's something y'all interested in doing, I'll go back to them and say, hey, now, we need to sit down and draw up something and start dotting i's and crossing t's and go from there.
I think we need to do that.
Just
And
want to
then-
make sure we got our stipulations together
Yeah,
when we get
yeah.
there.
And then,
That's smart.
then determine how much you want to do. Again, there's stipulations that we can put in there that, if you own 4 or 5 or multiple properties, you only can do 1 through this program, or you can do up to 3 or whatever, but, that 150,000 was a starting point. It could be higher, it could be lower. It could be this time, and then when we get money next year, that time.
Yeah.
But the key to all this is we have to have whatever money we collect, $3.1 million, 2 years from now,
Needs to have a home.
December 2024, we've got to have a home for this money. And then December 2026, we don't have any money left. So, we've got some time, but I don't want to.
It's a big opportunity, we just don't want to miss it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'll go back to the banks and talk to them about it some more. And also, the city now owns the property behind the old First Bank building, what we call the Bethany property. That was closed last week or so ago, has been done. We talked about through trucks prohibited on Commerce Drive, last month or a month before last. I reached out to DOT. I got a letter today stating that they would install the through trucks prohibited signs for Commerce Drive. So tomorrow I'm gonna write another letter about through trucks on Main Street and see if they'll bite on that one as well. And we received a payment from Department of Revenue for $3,700 about a week or 2 ago for permits for Sunday sales. This money comes in quarterly. These are for 2 businesses, Mexican restaurant and High Cotton. Next quarter, we may receive money, we may not, I don't know. But the question is, where do we want to put this money? Do we want to just put it in the overall general fund, or do we want to put it in its own account and do something else with it?
Didn't you have a quality of life fund or something?
We don't have that anymore.
We don't have it?
Yeah.
I think we need to have its own fund. And another thing I want to bring up, maybe for our downtown person we just hired, are we reaching out to these big retailers about the sale on Sunday, or is that something we should not do?
Well, no, I don't think that's bad to do. I don't know who you're speaking of, big retailers.
Walmart is not
Pardon?
doing it. Walmart is not
Yeah,
participating.
they may not be, a lot of convenience stores aren't.
I don't understand Walmart.
Yeah, you would think they would. I know that KJ's and Food Line,
They are.
there may be 1 or 2 convenience stores that are doing it. You can go online to Department of Revenue, and there's a link that you can go to, and it'll show you who has Sunday sales in the city of Dillon. But, again, this, I have no idea how much money we will collect. This may be the only money we collect annually, unless someone else does it. And I think, based off the 2 that it mentioned in this money, it's for those that sell alcohol on Sundays on site. I don't believe off site you get anything that's on site where you get some kind of funds back.
So at the present, we only have 2 restaurants that are doing it?
Yes. High Cotton and
Del Sol.
Del Sol, that is correct, that I know of at this point.
And my understanding is it is it's working out for them.
And then lastly, I'd like to introduce you to Lisa Moody. Lisa is our downtown coordinator grant writer. She was hired back in October. She wasn't able to make our first meeting in October because she was taking a class on grant writing, but she's been pretty busy. Lisa, if you take a moment to slip in behind. Just kind of brief counsel on and the public on what you've been doing and what you're trying to accomplish.
Honorable Pro Tem Mayor Wallace, Council. Let's start on September 21st at 7:45 in the morning, and I walked out of the front door of my new house, my new home, and walked down to work. And for a solid week, I walked to work, and I walked by 12th all the way to the bank. And during that week, I walked to City Hall, and I walked the streets, and I saw what was in front of me. It was Friday evening, and I read an article that Todd had done. It was on the front page of the paper. And I woke up that evening with my heart pounding, and I sat quietly for the weekend and thought about what was in store of me. And I reminded myself that Monday, walking to work after being there for a week, that I had done 3 things in my life that I was always very proud of. I quit smoking, I birthed and raised a child, and I got a Class A CDL in rush hour traffic in a 54-foot truck, double clutching, and did that. Those 3 things have always been my prides that I've accomplished. And then I thought, if I can do those, I can be a part of the rebirth, the salvation, and the revitalization of our downtown. And I've taken that moment of realization of what we have in store for us and have gone with it. I have worked closely with the Downtown Community Alliance, which I have thoroughly enjoyed. I know a lot of these people from high school and growing up and families in the past, so I feel a little connection with them. They're motivated towards our goal, which is refreshing. With the Master Plan Committee, I feel very confident after 2 meetings with them that we are on the path of truly moving forward with some positive outcomes. We're not talking a year from now or 2 years from now. Realistically, let's look at this. But I drive through different towns throughout the cities in this area after being away for 30 years and coming back and seeing that it's not just us, it's everywhere. And a lot of cities and towns have pulled through with this, with the Main Street approach, which I will be moving forward with that strongly. With our master plan that we have, there's a solid plan with that, with the committees that we're involved with. So I've worked closely to build those relationships. It's going to take time. You can meet someone and learn to work with them, but a true relationship takes many months, many years to see how they actually work and play out. So I'm looking forward to that. I've spent a lot of time with the businesses. My first part of my life was in retail. Retail queen, I was a terminator, I was a lot of things in retail. So I have a place in my heart for anybody that goes out and get a business. So I spent a lot of time walking the streets, saying hello to Angie, the people at Rhett's, the this and that store, every single one of them, and not just going and saying hello, but actually having conversations with them. I've handed out 2 major packets of information for them. One was talking about incentive programs that we offer, getting them involved in a newsletter that Glenn and I would like to have put out that the public would receive. Our Halloween event, trying to invite them to come into the event and just trying to get to know them a little bit. The second one was an outreach for the Shop Small that's going on, and these take usually about 2 days to hit everybody that's down there to try to pull in some excitement about what's going on. I've started a coffee and chat. I had 9 people show up. We're starting to chat and chew at night next month. It's for the businesses, it's for the owners, it's for the community at large, it's for you if you want to come, whoever wants to come and just spend an hour or 5 minutes or a second, breeze in and breeze out. It's just an opportunity for something to happen. We've done a successful Halloween event. That was a lot of fun, so thank you if you were there. That is my large background, is special events, 30,000 people. So to see 500 or so show up was fabulous. I got away from the little froggy game for a minute and was able to look around and see a lot of children, a lot of families having a good time. I love to stand there and see that happen. So I've been working on special events. I did a grant writing program, outreach to the businesses, and this past week I actually went forward with the property owners themselves. With Glenn's guidance, we typed up a really good letter, I feel, that expressed the concern and the need for revitalization, and we've asked them to return a survey or contact me to get a survey sent to them to find out what we can do more for them. It is my goal in the next couple of weeks to contact them personally on the phone to see if we can meet to talk about their ideas and things that we can actually offer them to help with our process. I'm starting grant writing for hopefully working with the police department to have some money and funds for that. And Main Street program. I feel very confident that after speaking with Florence for some time, that the Main Street approach can work if it's managed and delegated properly. We'll start out small and we'll build on that. And like I said, with the master plan and the committees we've got, I foresee in the next 5 years being able to walk down the street with my grandchild if I ever get one, and be able to be proud of what we've done in revitalizing our downtown. So that's my goal. But thanks for everything, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. Do you have any expertise in commercial grant writing?
I do not.
So do you think we could be looking down the road maybe to save the $150,000 from the APR money, ARP money, looking at, finding grants to renovate these buildings down there?
Well, not on our behalf, because we wouldn't own them. And then, grants. In fact, I was looking at one here 2 weeks ago for the police department. Again, there's certain times for some of them that you have to apply for. So there was one that I looked at that we missed the deadline back in October. So, we're roughly a year out before we can apply for that one. So some of them are time sensitive. Thank you, ma'am.
Now, Glenn, the thing I mentioned before about the eminent domain, especially for the building across from Kings, the old white one, across from Council of Aging, and maybe the round property, if our council could maybe look at that and see what our options are with those two properties. Because I'm really afraid the white building could collapse onto the sidewalk. It kind of looks like it's going further out.
That would be your attorney's.
What building you speaking about, the white building?
One across from the Council of Aging.
Madisonville.
Is there any chance those two property owners would take advantage of any of the funds to revitalize it, or y'all think that's just?
Y'all reached out
The
to
buildings
the
are
heirs.
completely gone.
You reached out to the heirs
The
on that.
one that's on Main Street that he's speaking about is across from Council on Aging, Madison Estate. The last time Benny and I spoke with the family, they were still trying to get it through probate. So,
Wow, that might make it hard to condemn, but it can be done. You just have to have John Doe's and guardian ad litems.
I really think we need to look at that building. That building is about to collapse.
it is.
The roof's
We've talked
already
about
down
it
in
for
it.
months, huh?
The roof is already down in it. And of course, the air-round building is non-existent.
I mean, they wouldn't
Should
have a
still
problem
structure.
with the city going in and paying for it to be torn down. We talked about this before. I think the cost estimate was about $40,000. Yes, sir.
But if
But,
if we had possession of the eminent domain, we could get funds to remove it, correct?
If we,
Because it's gonna be used for
anytime
public
you
use.
receive anything by eminent domain, your grant chances are slim.
Okay.
Because.
And it is gonna take a year or two to get through the process.
I don't think we got a year or two to wait for that
Yeah,
building.
again,
We don't.
we can bite the bullet and spend the money if that's something y'all wanna do.
You got an estimate one time.
Yeah, about 40 grand, yeah. And we've done 2 or 3 of those in the past and we never get our money back. But
Safety
sometimes,
concerns my thing.
yeah, sometimes you have to do that. And if that's what y'all wanna go forward, I mean, we can do that. But yeah, the eminent domain is not gonna happen overnight. I
I
mean,
mean, the part that we're most concerned about is the one on the sidewalk,
yeah.
right? I mean, right that area, just push that back into the building. And then we'll figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of it. Then we don't have 40,000 in it. It'll look awful.
Well, we can't.
But it
touch-
looks awful now.
We can't touch it ourselves.
No.
Without written
We have to, well, one,
authorization.
we got the authorization, but we couldn't do it ourselves. We'd have to hire somebody to do that. Because of not as being a commercial building, we're not certified for asbestos and things of that nature. Remember, we went down that road many
Back
years
your
ago.
backhoe over, knock it over.
Accidentally back into it.
Yeah, we can't do
Now-
that, but
But the property taxes are being paid on both properties. on
as
that
far as
one.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
But
I
they
know,
were not being paid.
I know the one on Martin Luther King is, because I looked at that one, about a month ago when you had called me?
Yeah.
But if they were not being paid, we could buy it.
That is correct, at the sale.
But you,
They just had to
but,
sell.
but,
Yeah, but it wasn't on it.
Oh,
but as far as the city, y'all are watching that to see if those properties come up.
We try to keep an eye on those. Yes. But I mean, if y'all want to, for us to, I will get another quote and bring it back in December and have it on the agenda. How about that?
That's good.
For the one on Main Street.
But the long-term process on the one on Hampton Street, I know it's an empty lot now. It can never go anywhere because we got how much, $40,000?
40,000 is a lien on it.
Is a lien.
Yeah. We'll end up having that probably being our property down the road.
And what about the lot, on Martin Luther, there across from, the, athletic field? Don't that belong to the same folks?
Which one?
What the house is
What's
doing?
next to JV Martin?
Yeah, right across from, the athletic field over there. Remember the house they were torn down, they were getting compensated for that?
Talking about by the lines,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming we did, that was many years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We probably did. If not, it was a lien put on it. I don't know. Yeah, that's been several years ago.
So how many properties do we have a lien on?
I couldn't answer that.
It's a good many.
Well, I mean, more than one to me would be a good thing, but I mean, I don't think 10 would be the most. I mean, I don't think we have 10. I don't
But
think, do
like-
you have any idea?
I agree, it's not much.
As far as where we've torn it, because most of the residential, we get our money back for those. It's the commercial properties where we don't, because people, when we tear one down for $3,000.
$3,000 instead of
Yeah.
40.
I wonder how many acres there are in the round property. That property has been cleaned up.
That's 3 or
DHEC
4
lots.
different lots in that, or 3 or 4 different parcels there.
Now, the DHEC, portion of it, the city paid for that,
That was through a grant,
We got a grant, yeah.
a federal.
but we did get a
EPA.
grant for it to help him for his private property. So is there a lien there?
Well, they were toxic, I mean, it
Yeah, no,
was
there's no
toxic
lien on that.
stuff
That
getting in
was a
the
grant
water,
that-
and all that. I
That
mean,
he
we had
got
to do
through
it.
us, through the city.
We had dump trucks come in from Alabama, didn't we?
Yeah.
And look at it now, worse than it was.
it
Well,
was
at
cleaned
least
up.
it's not toxic.
Yeah, that's all that was.
The toxic
That
stuff.
fell under a Brownsfield.
But I think those two properties, those two could really be used for public use. And
Well,
I think-
I'll bring back next month a quote or an estimate on tearing down that one on Main Street, and then y'all can vote it up or down.
Now, is there any funds we can obtain for the round property, at least remove the metal, clean it up, even though he retains ownership of it?
No, no.
So,
You're talking
so,
about the structure.
I'm talking about the metal structure, the value in it would probably
not the
pay for
stuff sitting on
itself.
the ground.
We couldn't, that I know of, we don't own
I just don't quite understand something. And maybe you can help me, and this is following behind Jay. we can let it grow up and look like a dump hole. And we got to live with that?
No, we send him and we get it, when we cut it, we send him a bill to cut it, that we have to cut it.
Do we get paid?
Yeah.
Well, how much did it cost
They
to
ain't been cut
cut?
since that.
But we ain't done no cutting this past year. no.
Well, how many acres are there?
Again, I don't know how many acres, maybe
4
It-
acres.
It's ruining the whole neighborhood, community.
Martin Luther King is drowned out by that property. I hate the J.B. Martin project being done, and then you got that down the road. I mean,
Then you got them two wells right across the street now, and you got to go right out the street, go right dead at that.
because there's people out there that will obviously remove all the metal part of it, and the whole structure were probably zero. They would not charge a dime because of the metal.
I think he's thinking of rebuild.
Yeah, last time I talked to him, he thought he was gonna have an electric plant there.
And they're paying their property taxes, Glenn?
But you can't do anything or you're trespassing unless he gives us permission to do it. Or unless you go through.
I mean, there's got to
it.
be some high-value taxes there.
It's not, it wasn't.
You mean
I don't know.
commercial property?
It was not very high.
Really?
Yeah. I don't remember the exact number, but I think there was 3 or 4
Needs to
parcels,
be.
and it may have been $4,000 total.
Wow.
How many buildings we got condemned uptown?
What you got? 2 maybe?
Uh,
When you say uptown, I'm assuming on Main Street?
Well, I mean, uptown, right there beside the realty there, we got one that's been condemned for years. I mean, we can't put the pressure on them to get the building up to par?
I think they've already roofed it,
Yeah, they've
and
roofed
it's
it.
been, everything in it's been torn out. It's,
Which building is
you're
that?
talking about the white
Right,
one,
the
the
old
old
white
Dr.
building.
Hankins'
Arthur
office,
Avenue.
used to be HR block after
I mean,
that.
that's in the heart of town right there.
Now, the one concerns me is the one with the bats live in.
We have several of those. And I don't mean to stop you, but we're getting off the target off of our
Yeah.
agenda.
All right.
Yeah, let's kind of rope it in a little bit. We still got a lot of people to talk. Maybe we can,
Well, you can do that in your report.
Right.
As well.
and then, are you through?
Yes.
Okay. Janet's out, looking at the finance, nothing jumped out at me, that was, awful. I think it's good to note that, the country club, the golf course, we haven't had to fund it but $15,000 this year so far.
Well, then the county also gave us our 50,000
Yeah.
last month and the month before last, so they were earlier than usual.
So
on
we're
that.
in a pretty good place
Well.
there. And, I don't know, y'all have had a chance to look at these as well. And it's also noted that, we're about $20,000 ahead on our 2% money for, that's, July, August, September, October, so 4 months, so that's about 5,000 up. That's good.
Where are we with the donation of the golf course? I mean,
The appraisal is done now.
Talked with Brian Mason a week or so ago. It's on Alan Berry's desk, their attorney. I think Janet talked to him last week, and we'll probably have something at our December meeting to sign off on.
Good.
He's supposed to be getting me all of the documents, the appraisal, and various documents to look over, and I've got to follow up with him. I think I talked to him last Wednesday or Thursday.
now, Glenn, on the upper corner, are we gonna be able to connect to the city at any point on that property?
Not as of right now.
Where we could annex it?
No, not as of right now. Because that upper corner would be property that's not a part of this, but eventually.
Do you think you could reach out to that property owner where we might could get something connected in that middle behind the country club?
He owns it.
Yeah, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, he owns it.
No, not Johnson, I'm talking about the other man. There's another piece of property that's separating us between this property here and the 40 behind us, and then there's another person that owns it, that hunts it.
Yeah, I've talked with him before. He was willing to sell it to us, and I can't remember the amount of money, but it was a large amount of money. It was like $250,000, $300,000.
Well, he might sell us a small piece of it,
Could possibly,
and then we'd be connected. I was just hoping we could annex that into the city.
possible.
Okay.
I'll reach out to them or have our attorney to reach out to them
Okay.
on that.
All right. Stormwater presentation.
Yeah, Mr. Kevin Crick, I've met Kevin here before. In your packet, you would have a summary of what he's gonna talk about, and I'll let Kevin go ahead. I won't steal your thunder.
All right, very good. Well, thank y'all very much for having me. It's been a little bit of a journey. I think we started here about a year ago with some public meetings in this very room. And really the first step for us was to try to identify as many of these flooding areas as we could. So we did that through the help of Glenn and city staff and then also the general public, and came up with, I don't know, a lot of various areas that have been flooding throughout the city. Took that information and then also went out and did assessments of the current storm drainage system that you have, mapped that system, was able to put that into GIS, and then put that into a hydraulic and hydrology model, and was able to calibrate that with some of the storm events that we've had, Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Matthew, and try to make sure that we understood what was happening in the theoretical world was actually happening in the real world. And sure enough, that was the case. So once we identified where all this flooding is happening, we started changing pipe sizes and doing other things like that, and developed a list of recommendations that would, eventually, I'm not going to say solve the problems, but alleviate a lot of the flooding within the city. So this is over here. Can everybody see these okay? And if not, feel free to get up and move around. But this one over here, this is the watershed map for the entire city. There are several drainage areas, some of them small, some of them larger, and they all go eventually out to either the river or down through Maple Swamp. The largest area, or the largest watershed, is what we call Watershed E, and it's right there in the middle. And this map here kind of identifies the areas in there that have specific projects as well. We took, I think we had, and you'll have a list in your packet there, I think it's 33 different projects that we've identified that would help alleviate some of this stormwater. These 33 projects we tried to rank and prioritize based on a set of criteria that is also followed by the Office of Resilience, the South Carolina Office of Resilience, and they use that also to determine how they allocate CDBG mitigation funding. For those that aren't familiar, the federal government through HUD issued $157 million to the state to be able to be spread amongst 13 counties in the coastal part of South Carolina for these types of projects. And so that money will be divided out through grant applications, one of which Glenn mentioned earlier, where we've recommended the top 3 of these projects be part of that funding. And so we thought the best way to try to take advantage of that funding was to also prioritize and rank these projects in that same manner. So we took into consideration several different factors, some of which were low to moderate income score, depending upon where it was in the city, the flood risk reduction, how important or how well the improvement would actually alleviate the flooding. Also took a look at benefit cost ratio. So we wanted to make sure that the city is getting the best bang for the buck in doing this stuff. We don't want to alleviate one person's flooding for $1 million. If we're spending a lot of money, we want to make sure it takes care of a lot of things. So at the end of the day,
Just curious, you
yes,
said
sir.
that the state's getting $157 million
That's
for
correct.
13 counties.
That's correct. I believe
So
that's
why are
correct.
we going after $4 million and not $12 million?
So the program will last for 6 years, I believe it is.
Okay.
They are accepting applications from various municipalities, counties, and other agencies.
They're gonna prioritize.
And then they're prioritizing as well. That money, that 157 million is divided into several pots of money. One of those pots is for planning studies. One of those is for home buyouts, basically houses that are within floodplains that are repetitively lost. So there was a certain amount put aside for that. There was a certain amount of money put aside for matching funds. So if you had a FEMA grant, for example, they would kick in the matching fund at 25%. That's actually part of what happened on this stormwater master plan that we're working on here, is that they kicked in a 25% match for you. So all of that to be said, there's a lot of different, moving parts there. We could definitely put in applications for, much more than that. And I think over time that'll happen. But they're being selective. They want to make sure everybody gets, a little bit of the pie. You could put in for 20 million now, but, you're just not, in
Well,
reality, not going to
all
get
I'm
it.
saying is that, this isn't the end of our asking.
No,
Right.
no. So they have applications that they're asking for on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
That started last year. That's where you received the matching fund grant. This year, we've put in for an actual infrastructure project, and I feel like there's a pretty decent chance that you'll get something out of that. And we'll continue to do that for as many years as they offer that opportunity.
Probably 30 years ago, we did a similar study, and it was 20 million then. I'm a little surprised that.
Well, that was 20 million, that was replacing everything,
Yeah,
pretty much.
starting over, yeah.
And this is not replacing every pipe and tank that's on this piece of paper. This is just areas that we know are problem areas.
Right. Yeah. So the top three projects that ended up on here were all in this watershed E, and they're all trunk line projects. And what we mean by that is starting from the outfall down here at Lucius Road, working your way back up into the center of town. We felt like it was very important that you address that first, because if that doesn't have enough capacity for the stormwater, anything else you do in any other area that comes through there, it just doesn't do you any good. So by working through these trunk lines, it allows us the biggest opportunity to improve all of this watershed, which serves a large part of the city.
Bert, Lucius Road, is that where that bridge was, that creek was just full until you broke the dam?
Well, Lucius Road is a dirt road, it's kind of behind Lockman Scrap Metal, the landfill area.
Okay.
And that's where we got a pipe that goes under the road, it's really too high, because there's a existing Trico water line that's down below it. So we're only utilizing half the pipe, and that's one key area he's talking about.
Is Lucius Road in the city?
No.
It's the county road.
Yes.
So is the county?
Yeah, but our pipes run out there.
Well, that's where we drain to.
That's where we drain
That's where all
out.
our water
And
goes.
that's a big issue, because if you can lower that storm drainage pipe down 2 or 3 feet,
Double.
all of a sudden your hydraulic grade line coming all the way back up into the city gets
Pull it
lowered
down.
2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
And so what needs to happen is that Trico water line needs to be lowered underneath the creek bed.
Then we can talk
Then you can
about
lower
putting
the pipes and make
pipes
them
in.
bigger.
2 big pipes out in the spare.
So that's the number one project on your list. That's what's been put before CDBG mitigation, for that grant funding, as well as the 2 other trunk line projects. The one coming up along Highway 301 between Washington and Dargan, and then also the line that comes underneath the railroad down in Public Works.
Are you going to provide us a list, Glenn, because I don't have one.
Pardon?
This was in our
You
last
didn't
packet.
have that?
No, we don't have that at all.
You didn't give them that?
I got yours. Because I got 2.
I'm sorry, you should have that in your
You didn't get one either?
No, I don't have one.
I guess I have one.
Thank you, Dr.
Mr.
Wallace.
Clerk?
I printed it, I think.
May I?
Undoubtedly, yeah, you got it. Yeah, you should have that, I'm sorry.
It's folded.
It's yours, there's
Yeah,
it's
it's folded
folded.
over. I got 2.
I got 30. I gave
Tim had 2. Okay.
So our next steps, we're finalizing a master plan report that will outline all of this information in detail, how we got there, prioritization going forward, funding opportunities that there may be that would be beneficial for the city. And so that report will be coming out soon. And then we will continue to work with the city to pursue grant opportunities to try to fund these projects.
Now, the Lucius Road drainage channel and outfall, which one is the main pull to First Avenue? Because First Avenue is probably our largest.
That is.
So you're saying if we have a more of a gravitational pull against it?
Well,
Our drains, you're saying, are clear, but it'll pull us more out.
There are several things happening. Number one, the outfall here is a couple of feet higher than it should be. All right, so if you can lower that down, you can let gravity work with you a lot better. Number two, the pipes coming underneath Lucius Road are undersized. So that's creating a bottleneck. And then as you come up through the system, on up to the railroad and under the railroad, a lot of those pipes and bridges are smaller than they need to be as well to handle the water that's coming through there. This system was installed a long, long time ago. And, since then there's been a lot of development, and it just hasn't caught up.
So it almost looks like all your problem is on the other side of the railroad track, on the pull.
Well, the majority of our drainage, that's where it goes, to one spot, and this canal is talking about.
So at First and Harrison Street, First and Cleveland Street, where that flooding starts right there above Cleveland,
This should help some.
all the way
but there's
down to
more.
Cowards.
This should help some, there's more in that list, that details, putting in new pipe, coming back that way to help that area even more.
Any pipe that has a project or any project that has an ID called E, it all funnels down through this same channel. And that's everything on this watershed right here on this map.
So in your expert opinion, this will put around these outskirting areas will pull that water out of downtown Dillon.
Well, it won't.
More volume.
It just gives you a larger capacity for it to flow downstream. That's correct.
Now, I got a question. Like number 16 here, where it's in a residential community. I know you're doing 3 this year, so we're looking at 4 or 5 years before we get to number 16?
Well, that could be one that we may be able to do in-house.
Yeah.
Right. Some of them are smaller budgets, some of them are easier projects to work on that Bert's crews can deal with. So, yeah, these are ranked in the order of the prioritization tool that we kind of came up with. That does not mean that's the order that they absolutely have to go with. Yeah.
But E is number 1.
But this channel here, we believe, is absolutely a priority because it affects everything else that's happening in this watershed.
It probably does over half the town, I would think.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, this drains all the way up Main Street.
What's the second?
All that water's going from
What's
one
the
spot.
second largest drain?
West side. It's not gonna help you.
The second largest drainage area.
Yeah, if Lucas is there, is 9th Avenue or one of our biggest to Maple Swamp?
The Maple Swamp would be your other area.
So that would be the 9th Avenue run, where that big ditch is, it runs straight across behind the armory, beside the armory.
I was talking down there, kind of missed what y'all were talking about.
Yes, that all goes out that direction to Maple Swamp. The difference over there is it's less populated and it's less dense.
Because that ditch,
But all the water comes back to Maple Swamp, it just gets there
Right.
from a different canal.
that ditch used to be a lot deeper.
Right.
When you talk about coming over, goes by Dillon C, goes under 301.
And you know, we
That project is
covered it up in like 3 different roads, they were covered.
That project is number 6 on your
Just
list.
put tile in that,
Yeah, but I tell you,
it's 30-inch pipe.
But you only have enough money to cover 3 of your first 3 years, correct?
That's what we applied
That's
for,
what's been
first
applied.
3 for the first grant,
Right.
or the first 3 on the list.
But you gotta wait a whole nother year before you can apply
No.
again. You don't?
No, that was for the first 3,
Okay.
which we applied back in early October. They'll be awarded in February if we get it.
Okay.
We applied for another one, was it last week? Number 4, we applied for it last week. And then there should be another.
That's a different funding source.
Yeah.
That's a FEMA hazard mitigation grant. Then there's a third pot of money. It's a FEMA BRIC funding. It's called Building Resilience in Communities. That's a very competitive national grant, so, you know, the opportunity there is a little bit
Is there a
less.
match on that too?
It's also 25% match.
And that would be what we're looking at, what we've applied for and what we plan to apply for, the first 5.
And then, correct, next year in the summer, I believe it is, or early fall, CDBG mitigation through the Office of Resilience would open up applications again.
And what you were asking a while ago about the west side, some of that will be affected. It will help that. Down from the shop area and on South First Avenue, on that west side, all those houses that flooded, it should help that also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Then we'll leave these here with you.
All right, appreciate it, kids. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Alicia Berry from the Dillon Historic School Foundation. Hey, Alicia.
Good evening. It's very nice to be here. I'm Alicia Berry, and I am representing the Dillon Historic School Foundation presents the Events Committee of the Dillon Historic School Foundation. First of all, on behalf of this Events Committee, I would like to express our gratitude to the Dillon City Council for your generous support. We also appreciate the help and advice from Glenn Wagner and his secretary, Tina Scott. At your October meeting, Mary Miller spoke to you about the Dillon Historic School Foundation and the plans already in the works to renovate all the buildings on the former J.D. Martin Junior High School campus, an area covering 2 city blocks. After Mary's introduction, Gerald Berry showed you the before and after architectural plans that will completely restore the 1936 auditorium and gymnasium. DHSF Presents' future goal is to stage various events in the restored auditorium. In the meantime, an exciting lineup of entertainment will be presented in the Dillon County Theater. There will be 5 shows for the 2021-2022 season. If you will, please look inside your folders. You will find a magazine named PD Life. In that magazine, on page 22, you will see the announcement of these 5 shows planned for our community. You will also find a pocket-sized flyer of this ad, which I have on the back. If anybody would like to have a little flyer, I would be more than glad to share with you so that you could have it at home, in your pocketbook or on the refrigerator or wherever. But it's the same lineup, but in a smaller size. The first show is the Legacy Motown Review, coming on December 10, only 4 weeks away. The Legacy takes you back to the days of the Drifters, the Coasters, the Jacksons, Earth, Wind and Fire, the Temptations, and so many more legendary icons. Featuring 4 talented performers who dance and sing, plus an amazing 6-piece horn band, you will be transported back in time to one of the most influential periods in American musical history. Now, tickets are $20, $25, and $30 and can be reserved now by calling Jerry at the phone number on your flyer, which is 843-632-2774. We will very much appreciate your attending any or all of the season's shows. Remember, tickets for a great show are great Christmas gifts for family and friends. Do you have any questions for me, gentlemen and ladies?
How are your ticket sales for your first event going?
Pretty slim right now, and I'm hoping that people listen. I've been contacting all my friends on Facebook, and I say, please post, go to my page, Alicia Berry. You all can do that the same thing, please. Go to my page on Facebook, Alicia Berry, and I have the same thing that you have there, the same 5 events, right, Tina? And Tina has a wonderful display on the electronic side. So we are advertising the most we can, and I just don't know what else to do except I need y'all's help. I need everybody's help to support us. And the only thing that I haven't done is to go and knock on doors. I may no. But I think that, we have a really wonderful line of events. And any other questions, I'll be glad to give you this little, would you like one? Okay, yes.
Yeah, we've advertised for Mr. Eller, we've advertised in the PD Life, Golden Life. We've gotten some coverage in the Florence Morning News, and I'm getting ready to discuss with our group tomorrow night at a meeting, radio spots with Danny Lockerbie. So we've got about a month to go, and people are calling for tickets, but it's all reservations. You call for reservations, and you pay for the tickets when you get to the Dillon County Theater. We'd like to fill the theater, 288 seats there. Tickets may be steep now, but once we move to the auditorium, which seats over 1,000, ticket prices will come down. But we have to try to get as much attendance as we can, because it has to offset the cost of these acts. Because each one of these acts costs a good amount of money. And we just
Between
want the
3
community
and 5.
to get back into what we used to see when we were children at the old auditorium. And when Miss Becky Wright School of Dance used to perform on that stage, Miss Cox Band used to perform on that stage, and the Vienna Boys Choir performed on that stage, and the Spanish dancers, all this. We want to get back to the live entertainment in Dillon, and that's where it will be happening right now at the Dillon County Theater until the auditorium is renovated and open. And it's going to be a wonderful renovation. I've been talking to the sound technicians down at the beach. He told me today that what we'll have in that auditorium will be better than what they have at Myrtle Beach, and maybe better than what they have in Charlotte. We'll put the top quality sound equipment and lighting equipment in that auditorium.
So with our auditorium and the events and the renovation of downtown with Miss Moody, I think that we are on the road to have a wonderful
It's going to be beautiful.
town of Dillon. And thank you so much, and I wish you a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Alicia. All right, citizens report. Anyone else like to speak? Anybody else? No? All right, old business. Do we have any old business? None. All right, new business. Premium pay for employees, American Rescue Plan. Do we want to vote on this? Do we want to discuss it?
Well, it would be the time to discuss more, and if you want to do something, you can do something, because it's on the agenda, you don't have to do anything, but this would be the time to discuss more and tell me what you'd like to do, or what you would not like to do, I guess.
Glenn, when we give them that's not to mess up their bonus, their yearly bonuses.
No. It's still, their longevity pay, if that's what you're talking about.
Whatever they get during Christmas time or close to Christmas time or whatever.
Well, we always give what's known as a longevity bonus.
Right.
That's always budgeted.
Well, I was
for.
just saying,
Christmas, you know, some years we give them some what we call Christmas bonus. Some years we don't. Again, that will be left up to council how y'all want to do that again.
That usually is based on, you know, what kind of experience we're having in that year. And, I mean, we've got a positive, I think we've got a pretty positive experience so far economically this year. But this might be
This shouldn't
something
weigh on
that-
it, I don't think.
Yeah, well, this might be that we wouldn't give them the Christmas thing if we do this.
See what?
Might not do a Christmas gift or bonus or whatever if we do this, you know, here. I mean, we're looking at giving them maybe 2,500, you know, $2,600 a piece with this.
yeah, but I think that's right. They usually get that bonus. They work through the pandemic. They should be able to get their regular bonus plus what the city should give them every year. I don't think that's right to take it from them, because you was blessed to get $2,500 or $2,000. You was blessed to get that. Then all of a sudden, just because you was that, oh, we're not gonna give you this other bonus because you got that. I don't think that's right.
I
Well, that's already budgeted, isn't it, Glenn?
Not the bonus.
Bonus.
The longevity plan is.
Right, we usually visit it in December, and I think, I would like to, let's put it two different issues, and let's visit it, look at our numbers. In our December meeting is usually when we decide on whether or not we can afford a bonus or not. I don't think we need to tie the two together myself, at this time anyway.
What I presented to you earlier was each employee would get $1 additional per hour that they work for that 66 or 67 weeks. If you want to change that or do something different, that's entirely up to you. I just give you something to think about, and you know, if it's something you do, I'd like for us to do it, you know, as soon as possible. And also, if they're not employed with the city, the day that we write the check, they don't get anything. I don't think we should pay someone who is still not employed, that is not with the city any longer.
Any other discussion?
I mean, can we not table it and bring it back next meeting so we have, I just need a better understanding with your numbers, Glenn. I mean, as far as you got 225, let's just make, for example, I make a motion that we give the $2,500 to the hourly employees and $2,000 to the department heads. You said that would take you down to $185,000.
Somewhere in that ballpark. I mean, that's just based on what I did earlier.
Versus what you're doing at $225,000. And that's where I don't have an understanding. And,
Some
you know,
people were making more money because of the amount of time they had in it.
but still, you can only get 2,040 hours.
Well, he was telling you he had
Well,
some
no, you would
56
get more
hours.
than that.
2,080
It's
hours.
66, yeah, 66 weeks.
You deal with 60.
Yeah, for, you know, whatever 66 weeks is. And then there may be some that's only getting 40 weeks, you know, depending on their work. And I can do that. But I need to know how you want to do it, I guess. Do you want to do a flat rate, or do you want to do an amount per hour?
I think the fairest is the amount per hour myself, because when you run into the part-time people, I know we have at least one person that works 35 hours a week. So you gonna give her $750, but you gonna give a guy that works 3 hours on the weekend $750. That's why I think that hourly, as far as overall, it's
Well,
gonna.
that and those that have worked the 66 or 67 weeks versus those that work 20 weeks.
Right.
You know, depending on when they were hired.
And the ones that used all their vacation versus the one, or sick days, used sick days, it'll be taken out, they won't get it. So if someone was out sick for 6 weeks, they gonna miss,
If they didn't have hours
whatever,
of work.
240 hours.
They
But
don't
the
have
part-time
hours.
is not what I'm really concerned about.
Right.
I understand what you're saying. Mine is focused on the hourly versus the salary and full-time. And also not forgetting, you know, our volunteer firemen. I think they deserve.
I agree 100%. I mean,
Something flat. That hourly thing is, for them, is crazy to me. But I mean, I'm just voicing my opinion.
What you do, and I'm just gonna throw out a number for discussion purposes. You could do $1 an hour for department heads, $1.25 for non-department heads. I mean, give me something to work off of. Because I don't wanna bring something back and we still having the same discussion. Now, y'all tell me what you want.
I like your proposal to start off with.
Which was,
The 2,000, and that was across the board for everybody.
Yeah.
But then I got to talking to you, and I have told you what
Yeah.
I would like to see happen. And now I'm mentioning it now in the meeting here, versus your hourly plan that you got, versus those 66 weeks. And then also the volunteer firemen getting a bonus too. Now,
And the part-time was getting $750.
part-time was getting $750, right?
Because sometimes when we give out bonus, they don't give part-time nothing, right?
They don't.
they do, I give them extra hours on their pay.
I just don't want a person, like he was saying, that works 35, and got somebody 3 or 4, like, it's not being fair to them.
How many you got by that, Glenn?
Well, from part-time, most of the part-time are out here.
Okay.
You know, I've got some that work 30 hours a week, I've got some that work 4 hours a week. And I've got some that work 25 hours a week.
So maybe you'll look at the average of the part-timers and see what range you are. I mean, how many you gonna have that work a lot of hours?
I agree. I was just trying to do it as simple as
I got
possible. $1, for every hour you work, you got $1. To me, that's simple. And fair.
And it reflects your skin in the game.
Yeah.
You know, your exposure, your.
That's
Well, I
way-
like that the best.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that way, nobody can say, well, such and such got this and I got that. Well, they work during 66 weeks, you only work 20 weeks.
Right.
Or you work these hours, they work this hour. I mean, I was just trying to make it as simple as possible. That's
Well, it
just
seems
my,
like you put more money in their pocket
that's just my
doing it with the
recommendation.
$1 an hour.
And then see,
Overall.
and then like the department head, you take like Burton and Jackson, they down in the hole with them boys when they're working, so they department head, but they're doing the same work. So I feel like, the dollar deal will be just fine, the way I figure it.
I think it's fair to give the, I mean, the whole idea is these people have exposed themselves in a pandemic and they've worked hard and we've got these funds that are available to us to thank them.
And they showed up to work, they didn't tap out like a lot of employees have tapped out across the nation, and we're in a situation with a lot of industries that they can't find anybody to come to work, won't come to work, because as soon as they could, they tapped out and went and got unemployment, didn't come back to work, and I feel fortunate that our city employees have stood by us, did we have many at all that used, I'm sure if they tested positive, but how many did we use that just said, I'm not coming to work because I'm afraid of COVID? They showed up and worked when.
And maybe find a figure that is equitable for the part-time fire department. But I'm in favor of hour per hour and then make sure we do something for the fire department.
Well,
You
that's
just get
that's
together.
something y'all would have to decide.
Well,
Again.
I mean, I don't know if we're gonna settle this tonight, but maybe if you could come back with that number, is that all right?
I like it, Dr. Wallace, if you could do that, bring it
Yeah,
back
and
one more
then,
time.
and then, you put some input in and, just come back with some options for us maybe next month.
Okay. How many options?
Well,
I just think,
I think everybody's pretty much easy with the dollar amount.
Right.
Except for
Just
Johnny.
go ahead and
I would
put
just
them back
focus
and
on the
come back with
part-time.
something we can do, maybe a little extra for the first-time responders. Let's do the dollar, you come back with something with the firemen, the volunteer firemen, 2 hours per call, and then let's look at it, if we can come back and give them a little bit extra. But I think we need to go ahead, I think.
Well, why don't we do this?
So
Yeah,
somebody
that's
needs to
important.
do a
And
motion.
just, I'm gonna speak for my boys.
Hold on for a second.
Say something, Jim.
I was just gonna say, I heard Johnny earlier make a motion about the 2,500 to hourly employees, 2,000 to department heads. Didn't hear a second, no vote. I think I hear both of you kind of saying the same thing, and I didn't know if anybody wanted to
Well, I don't
make that
think
in
we
the
make a
form
motion.
of
I
a
don't think
motion.
anybody's made
I
a
didn't really
motion.
make a motion, I was just saying that's what I was presenting.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just didn't know if y'all wanted to make a motion
Okay,
on.
well, I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion that we accept $1 per hour based on the 66 weeks and currently employed, just like Glenda talked, with the volunteer firemen getting 2 hours a call, and us looking to see if we can get them a little bit extra by the time we come to the next meeting.
Well, with a little discussion on his motion, you made it $1.25 for the hourly. I'd like to see us take it $1.25, Douglas, and leave it $1 for the department heads. And then we figure out.
No, I said $1.
No, that's what Glenn said.
I gave that
You gave
as
an
as
example,
an
yeah.
example, yeah, you could do that as well if you wanted to have a stipulation there.
And gentlemen, the only reason I'm saying that, I think Glenn could probably spend an entire month running different figures.
Right.
True.
Yeah,
But we got a motion on the table.
dollar, yeah,
With $1.25?
No, I made it $1 just across the board.
dollar cost.
Make it easy.
With coming back, doing something for the volunteer fire.
Right, well, go ahead and include them now.
But I would bring something back
Right.
next month for volunteer fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keep an eye.
They all make it get the $1, but we need to come back with something extra for them.
So is there a second?
All right, we need a second.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I oppose.
So
Okay.
make sure I understand the motion. Was $1 per employee per hour.
Based on
Based
66
on
weeks.
Exactly what you've
explained
already
earlier.
done.
Volunteer firemen are not a part of this, but we will bring something back.
No, they are part of this, and then
At 2 hours per call.
2 hours
2
per
hours per call.
call. And then we'll look to see,
What they're getting and see if we need to do
to see
something.
if we.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that all right?
That is what I said.
Okay. Just making sure that it can be,
I wrote it as you said it,
Okay.
that's why.
We were
this-
reading your mind.
I've never spent $225,000 like that in all my life. you know.
I ain't never had a chance.
And also, Glenn, I'd like for you to bring a breakdown of each employee on what they got as far as their bonus, so I can see.
sure.
Well, what I was gonna say is, no matter what the amount is an employee is, I know they're gonna appreciate it.
Yeah.
And what I was gonna say is if you could do it tonight, cause Christmas is coming, things have been tough for a lot of people, and I think they could really use it now instead of putting it off for another month. And that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah.
What y'all did, we appreciate it, whatever the amount was, is what we had.
Well,
Something's
how many volunteer firemen do we have?
Keith's not here, he's at another meeting.
22
It's
volunteer
22?
firemen per the last.
Oh, okay. All right.
It
I'm
says
glad you had that.
22. I kept trying to push it.
Okay.
but-
22. And what we'll do is look at how many fire calls they made during that same period, and come back with that number. And if it's not what
Can you
y'all
do a
think-
call?
No,
That, okay, all right.
All right.
Trying to accommodate.
I know,
All right. So, all right, ordinance number 21-15, adopt model business license ordinance in accordance with the Business License Standardization Act of 2020, Act number 176.
this is something that the state General Assembly passed several years ago. I came to council and said, we may be losing business license fees because the state wants to take it over and you can only charge X number of dollars, and then they collect the money. Along with the municipal association, worked hard to make sure that didn't happen. They've come to this agreement where everybody in the state pretty much charges the same fund.
Yes, sir.
And it takes effect May 1st of 2022. One of the largest changes in it, though, is in our business license ordinance that we have now, is if there's an issue with a business license, the business license holder whether it's suspended, revoked, or denied, goes to a committee to appeal, and if the committee upholds the suspension, denial, or revocation, then they have the opportunity to come to council. This new Standard Business Act takes out that committee portion. Now, if somebody has a denial of a business license or revoked or suspended, they would now come to council at a public hearing. There will be doctors as a classification, I think it's in classification 7. In this new ordinance, you will be in classification 4. Your business license decreases, and that's a state thing, not a city thing. There's another classification that may be in 4 today that will go to 7. Their business license is going to increase. Again, it's not a city of Dillon number that we're putting on it. Everybody in the state is doing the same thing now. There will be a portal, and that's got to be a trendy word today, where you can do business license online. And it'll go to the state, and the state sends it to us.
All right, in the case that we're dealing with right now, is there, if you revoke it, can they, through their appeal process?
So I'm fixing to talk to you about that next.
Okay. All right.
So that's the new standard license, or standard business license act that will take effect actually May 1st, 2022.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I said,
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, ordinance number 21-16, repeal existing provisions within Title VII licensing and regulation, Chapter 1 business license, Section 7116C of the City of Dillon Code of Ordinance. This is our, what's that?
This is the ordinance that we have existing now for business license. I think that's where you were going.
Right.
That eliminates the portion if your business license is suspended, denied, or revoked, you can still continue to hold business until you go through the appeal process. This is the one that we're going to take that out. And so once it passes its second reading, if your business license has been suspended or revoked or denied,
Can't do business
you can't do
in the
business.
appeal process.
And then in the new one that will take place in May, it won't be in that either, so.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, ordinance number 21-17, annex of tract of land located within the 1600 block Highway 301 North, tax map number, you can read it.
This is property here at Reeves Avenue and Highway 301 North. We've done a portion of it last month, I believe.
Is that gonna be zone commercial? Is that zone
Residential, isn't it?
It's residential.
It's residential, it's where the house is.
Well, you go two stories.
No, you got it B2.
Yeah.
You got it as a B2.
Yeah. Okay. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, councilmember report. John?
Yeah, Glenn, where we at with the dog ordinance?
Spoke with our attorney last week, she's working on that.
I've been trying to get into the municipal association website where I can communicate with other attorneys, and Glenn and Tina both tried to help, but I keep showing up pending, so we're not sure exactly what's going on.
Can I ask you a quick question? Kind of jump into, okay, go ahead.
No, you go, whatever you want to do. You want to ask a question? You want me to finish up?
Yeah, I mean-
Okay.
No, you go ahead.
I know this year you're tying in the tree lighting with the Christmas parade.
Yes, did you bring that up?
I did not.
Yeah, that was Lisa's idea.
My question is, we give a lot of money to the chamber, not to charge a fee for this Christmas parade this year. Dillon's got the smallest parade of Latta and Lakeview. And I asked that y'all get with Johnny Lures, and they don't charge for these floats, $325 for a float. will never draw a good crowd down in our main street.
You're right. We agree 100%.
So give them a lot of money.
$25.
Give them a lot of money. And I think you can get it done, Glenn, you and Ms. Moody.
Well, we can do one or two things. We can take it back over ourselves, or they agree to do what we ask them to do.
Well,
I mean, that's.
it's coming right down our main street.
Agreed.
Wow.
And it's gonna be a great event. We can get a lot of
We used to
people.
have a parade last.
And they don't have.
That's an expensive
And it has
ride.
really gone down through the years.
Well, Ladder would have a real big parade before, Mr. Charles died. He would beg people to come over there and be in their parade. You go over to North Carolina, what's the name of it? Marietta. Great God Almighty, they have a parade last over an hour.
I've been to see it. Sir.
Yeah, speaking
And they
with,
ain't got a stop sign or a red light.
speaking with Lisa when she was gonna, I asked her to kind of spearhead the tree lighting. And she talked about wanting to move the same day as Christmas parade, and then she gave me the time she wanted to do it. I said, Christmas parade will be over an hour before we do that. It won't last long, but,
Yeah.
no, we've talked about this before.
We have.
And, you know, I'm not here to defend the chamber one way or the other. She tells me that's their fundraiser, and one floats, they rent for people, so that people have to pay the float price, whatever the people charge. But, you know, I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem charging somebody else to have their own stuff in there.
Yeah, if they provide the floats, they can charge whatever they want to for it. But if Dillon Church of God wants to put a float in, it shouldn't cost them nothing.
If they want to make their own
Unless they
float,
need to
yeah.
rent the float from
Yeah.
someone.
Right.
Agreed. Agreed.
Also, Glenn, I'd like for you to really get the ball rolling on this splash pad. Get
I'm
some
working
bids
on that as we speak.
and see what you can get for us, okay?
I'm working on that one.
That's
Hopefully
all
have
I got.
something ready to go, and we can build one and have it open by the summertime.
Okay. That's all I have, Dr. Walton.
Since the road maintenance fee is in jeopardy, of course, with the county, do we get any money from that?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have any fee structures with the city that would be in jeopardy under what that judge had ordered?
Well, again, that was, I think, could be anything that is a fee. I mean, it could be anything. It's very, kind of like American Rescue Plan, it's very vague. But at this time, no.
So the reason I guess the road maintenance fee was focused on was because people from out of state use your roads,
Maybe, yeah.
but they don't use our water and sewer.
That would be correct.
Okay.
That would be, or our stormwater fee.
So I guess the main one was mostly Horry County.
Well,
And
I think the
use-
lawsuit came out of Greenville County, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you know they cut off the dredging fee at Cherry Grove in the 5th year, not stretch it to the 10th, and you know there's got a shining light on that.
Oh, yeah.
Because they base it on road maintenance to the channel. But we do not have any of our fee structures based on that.
I mean, again, that could be argued in court all day long. I mean, I've heard of no cities who are concerned about that.
Okay. That's all I have.
But
David, how many with the officers? How many we missing?
Right now, I'm short 5. Yeah, we have, just hired one. The 2 that we previously hired, maybe one of them can pass the police academy.
Well, how many homicides we had over on this side in the last 6 months?
3. No. 3, yes, 3.
3 over here and 1 over there in the east side?
No, I think it's 3 total.
Anybody been locked up?
No, we have not.
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything now.
Then where we stand at doing the parks? When are we gonna start doing some repairs to the park? Did we get anything yet on that?
No, we have not. I submitted some money requests through Representative Hayes, and that was a part of it. Now, that, what he told me, that he was trying to get it into the state budget. So if we get that, that will.
Do we have any, other festivals or cornhole things like we had one time before? We got anything lined up for that?
There's, things should be starting back in March.
Chili cook-off.
Well, the chili cook-off, along with the holiday goodness, that's where it will be here the 18th of November out here. And then start back in March, hopefully with the St. Patrick's Day events.
For the downtown developer, do you think that you can look into, since we own the property that they build now, look into having a food truck rodeo or something out there in that parking lot? I called Glenn previously, asked about that, and he was saying that we have a little, other people asked me about it too, but I can see we having something downtown in that parking lot now similar to a food truck rodeo, because you can line the trucks up in there, they can park down there, and it'll bring more people downtown too. And most of the food trucks is gonna be, I know it's gonna be an ordinance, but most of them that you're gonna get, they're already somewhere in somebody's city doing something. So what we're gonna do is advertise about it, but you know they're gonna be already lined up and legal. So we won't have to worry about them. We have to, they won't have to pay a vendor's, I know they probably have to pay a fee to come, but they won't have to buy a business license to do that with it.
I think once we draft the ordinance, it won't be like a peddler's license, but it'll be some type of fee.
But that'll be included probably in our, if we do an event, that'll be included in the,
I did charge the vendors this last time, even for the special event, to be there. It was just
well, that's what I'm saying, will it be added into that cost, so it won't be, okay, you got to pay this right here, and then you got to turn around and pay Benny too?
If we did a festival, we wouldn't charge them a business license.
Okay.
We charge them an event license.
Okay.
And then, I think Benny talked about peddler, and that might have been something I should have brought up again. With this new business license ordinance that takes effect in May of 2022, peddler license is gone away, am I correct?
It's down to 170, from 500 to 170.
From 500 to 170. Okay, so that means now, that would, a food truck really would want to probably come to Dillon now, because one time they would have to pay 500. Now it's only, now it would be 170.
And I believe that's effective April of 20.
May 1st, 2022.
May, yes. So we still got a few months, but hitting about that March, April time.
Okay, because I had another guy had a successful food truck. He said, and I tried to get him to come to Dillon. He said, man, you know, they want $500 to come over there. But, you know, I think he would have did good, but 500, that's a lot of people looks at the price of those, business licenses and money more. So hopefully 170 won't work. All right, that's it for me.
All right. Dr. Wallace, I have one more thing I want to ask.
Okay.
Benny, the restaurant uptown, when is it coming? Because we talked about it for 3 or 4 months. The restaurant, is it coming? Yeah.
The last time I talked to DMAG, they were still having like a punch list that they had to correct. As far as I know, as of today, they haven't, they're not in compliance. So they don't have DHEC approval, so I can't issue them a business license.
And Zaxby's, when's that?
Zaxby's today, DHEC told me they made their inspection. Everything I think was good on their end, and waiting on a vendor or two to do some things in there. Next week, they're gonna train staff and be open up hopefully Monday prior to Thanksgiving. So
Okay.
2 weeks from today is their goal.
All right. All right, anything else? All right, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion.